welcome to Martech Advisor's Executive Interview Series. I'm Ginger Conlon, a contributing editor to Martech Advisor, and joining us today is Joe Hyland, who is CMO of ON24. Welcome, Joe.
Ginger, it's great to be here.
So glad you're here with us today. We're going to talk about opportunities with webinars as part of your content marketing and also related trends. So I'm excited about that. It's just such a great topic. But before we jump in, let's just briefly introduce ON24. Tell us a little bit about ON24 and what makes it unique.
Yeah, so ON24 has been around for just about 20 years. We invented webcasting, so we were really the first webcasting or webinar provider. And back then, we had a couple hundred customers, and it was a full service experience, right? So we would do everything from soup to nuts for an online event. Think an online seminar, hence the name webinar. And over the last 4 or 5 years, we've scaled that and made it a SaaS platform, so marketers can run their own events and they don't have to kind of call us up to help schedule them. So now we run over 100,000 events a year. We have about 2,000 customers, and we're really helping marketers scale their digital marketing.
Excellent. So let's talk about that and how webinars fit into content marketing today. So if you think about webinars' popularity, you really see it especially in the B2B side, using webinars as part of their content marketing mix. Where, in terms of B2B, do you see marketers using it in the funnel? Like, where in the funnel are you seeing it most?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because I started off answering about ON24 going back 20 years. And I think historically, many marketers think too much in terms of a funnel, which is fair. I have slides that talk about moving people through the funnel. And so webinars, but it's not like when someone's buying, they think, boy, what stage in the funnel am I in? Webinars have historically been a top of the funnel, right? If I want to get someone engaged, see if they're interested at all, and then from there, I'll use different tactics. So what we're seeing from our customers and our own marketing as well is marketers using webinars across the spectrum for all of their marketing. So absolutely, there were thought leadership series, which I think you would perhaps categorize as top of funnel. Many B2B companies are using that. We also have B2B companies showcasing their product. We have SAP is a good example. They have a webinar series with SAP HANA, their ultra fast online computing that they've driven over $1 billion in pipeline with, but they're highlighting the product. So it's more bottom of the funnel versus just broad education. Then we have B2C customers like Match.com who gives relationship advice over webinars. So I look at a webinar as a tactic that you can use, anywhere in your marketing mix, but it really has to do with how you want to engage folks versus a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right. Yeah. So speaking of that, so marketers tend to use webinars for that. Hey, here's who we are, and here's some advice related to that, that thought leadership aspect. What's an opportunity for using webinars that maybe marketers are overlooking, but could have the potential for a significant positive impact?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I'm literally running through dozens of examples in my head. There's a lot of different ways. Again, so if you think just demand gen marketing and historically top of the funnel, that's changed, as I just talked about. But we're even seeing companies use it as a way to engage with existing customers. So we ourselves do 4 customer spotlights every month. It's not about getting new business. For us, this is creating a community of customers and having them share their experiences. So it's an engaging way to disseminate information. So what used to be kind of a one-way dissemination of an email or a white paper or a static webinar, we're now seeing companies think differently about that. How about a customer advisory board? That's inexpensive. I've gone through this where you fly in 10 or 15 customers to one city, have a 2-day event, it costs $50,000 or $100,000. Nothing wrong with that if it's strategic and it makes sense. But we have a lot of our customers who are getting product ideas through webcasts. So they're putting out their product release and then they're saying, what do you want? So you have polls, Q&A, and they're gathering feedback from their customers. But rather than just getting 10 or 15 opinions, some of our customers are getting thousands of opinions. And then that dictates what they put back in the product. So again, I think of the medium as a way to disseminate information, but have it be bidirectional. And that's a different way of viewing webcasting and webinars from, say, 5 or 10 years ago.
Right. So part of that could be, like you just said, you were just talking about polls. And
Yes.
I know one piece of advice that you tend to give is to make those webcasts as interactive as possible and use polls and take advantage of that two-way conversation ability that they have now.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think the days of throwing up a static video, a static presentation, and talking at people, like if a marketer is expecting to get good results with that, like I don't really know what to say to them. I mean, it obviously won't work, and if you're doing that, it is not working. This is a way to engage with folks. So I said we run 100,000 events a year, so we have a lot of data going across our network. And the data is pretty surprising. I think it's a little counterintuitive. So last year, the average attendee stayed on for 52 minutes. And when you think about, right, like let that sink in. When you think about snackable content or, clickbait, that's counterintuitive to people spending basically an hour in an event. But why do they spend an hour? It's about the content and how you engage with them. So if it's just a static presentation, good luck. People are going to leave quickly. But if you make it bidirectional, you allow your audience to participate. Core to our belief is that people multitask, like it or not. So let them multitask with information you want them to consume. So say you're doing a webinar on a product launch, put in information on pricing or how they buy the product or related pieces of content, and then track all of that. So I think webinars have moved from, or any online event, have moved from a way to just share information to a way to engage with folks and then measure the heck out of it. Because at the end of the day, it's actually a data play. It's not just a way to present.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I think that some marketers probably don't realize the value of the data that they can collect through webcasting. That's such a great point.
Yeah, I mean, we have customers who are moving away from traditional surveys and doing them during a big event, right? So let's say you ask and you want to get a large enough sample size. Great. Ask the same question or the same series of questions over the course of a given month or a quarter. You get, it again, depends on audience size. You get thousands of data points. And again, you're engaging with someone in the moment versus sending over a static survey. Or if you want to have a more sophisticated nurture path. So at my last company, I won't give an ON24 example, but at my last company, depending upon which ERP system our customers or prospects, were running, we had a completely different offering. So if they were running SAP versus Oracle or Workday, we had a different offering. So in every webinar or webcast, we would put in a poll that felt very natural versus putting it in a registration form. We'd say, hey, curious about market trends, who's using what technology? So they would have choices. We would then capture that data, feed it back into, we ran off of Marketo and Salesforce, but you could do it off of any CRM or marketing automation system, fed it back in, and then we categorized the companies accordingly and had completely different nurture paths.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great. So, let's talk a little bit about getting attendees engaged in terms of, pulling them in the first place, because there are so many webcast choices and webinar choices out there. What's your advice for creating webinars that really stand out among those offered?
Yeah, I think it's great marketing. So I get a lot of questions on specific tactics, like even our own sales reps will say, what is the one subject line that's going to make you open the email? And I say, you're looking at this the wrong way. Think about my, if you're marketing to me, my critical business issue, like literally what keeps me up at night? What am I screwed on if I don't fix or address? And there are certainly many things. but distill it. And so just like I would answer what's a great email subject line, I'd say the same thing for presenting on a webcast or a physical event strategy. You need to strike at the core. This is just great marketing advice. Strike at the core of what your audience most needs and provide content that is real. So most of our best webinars, our most engaging webinars, and we measure everything, right? So we have a proprietary algorithm to measure activity and engagement during the event, and we go back and then correlate topics and content to see what produced the best results. And it comes down to having real content and thought leaders. People want to hear from experts, right? So if you give a webinar and you present your pitch deck, good luck. You're not going to have great results. But if you're in financial services, I'm presenting at an event next week in Boston to financial services CMOs. And let's say your audience is financial advisors or wealth managers. If you present an expert or have an expert present who's going to add value, will people stay on for an hour? Heck yeah, they will. But if you present clickbait, if your subject isn't real, if it doesn't allow people to have engagement or interactivity during the event, you might put on a 30 or 45-minute webinar, but you'll see people trailing off 5 or 10 minutes in.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. So that's one challenge. What's another challenge that you see that's a little bit too common, and some advice that you could provide to help overcome it?
Yeah, thinking of, and again, I would say this for any tactic, but in this case, thinking of a webinar as a one-size-fits-all tool, right? So, or solution or tactic. So I'll only run something at top of the funnel, or I do a monthly webinar series and that's it. So that's the first, is be creative. You don't need people. Most people think I need to run webinars in a certain format. Like I need 25 slides or 30 slides, and it needs to be X amount of minutes. Get creative. You don't need slides at all. Just get Q&A from your audience. How about something changes in the market or in your market, you send out an event for 2 days later. You don't need to have 2 or 3 weeks to promote an event. How about something happens over a weekend or on a Monday, and you say, we're going to have a town hall with industry experts, XYZ industry, and it's 2 days from now. No slides. Send in your questions in advance, or we'll take them live. Like, think out of the box. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is harness the data. I can't tell you how many marketers I talk to who everyone talks about being a data-driven marketer, and I think most people can't spell it. Like, they just don't know what to do. So much data. So simplify things. Make sure, again, depends on your use case, but if you're running an event to generate interest or demand, and it's, you're trying to send things to your sales team, or that's the goal, find 1 or 2 pieces of information that you want to send along with the attendee information, and capture that. That way the sales force can extend a conversation versus saying, hi, Ginger, I saw you attended an event, because I wouldn't like to be marketed to that way. No one would.
Right. So what are 2 or 3 of the most common questions that you get and about either running a webinar, promoting a webinar, and what are the answers?
Yeah. Again, I'll go back to being creative. So first one, and probably the most significant area for improvement for most marketers is recreating reusing great content. So I was just, where was I 2 days ago? I was just at Fitbit, customer of ours, and we had a creative session. I was meeting with their head of marketing and their demand gen leader, and we were talking about how they're going to promote things going forward. And I said, what's your biggest challenge? And they said, it's generating interest in our products. Okay, well, that's most companies. And my next question was, how about content? Do you have a dearth of content, or are you in a good position with your content? And their answer fits my answer and fits most marketers' answer, which is, we have more content than we know what to do with. And we kind of have a hard time finding the needle in the haystack. Like, using our best pieces over and over. And so ultimately, where most marketers struggle, my opinion, is you run a great event, or you have a great white paper, or you have a great campaign, and it feels like drive-by marketing, like it's one and done, and you don't know how to leverage that again. So having a sophisticated on-demand strategy specific to webinars really helps marketers get better results. So let's say you run an event, it was one of your best events of the year. Great. Why not go back into your database, segment it out? Anyone who did not attend, promote that event again, right? Have that available on your website for on-demand consumption. We ran an event a few months ago. It was quite successful as a live event, and we changed our on-demand strategy and promoted it aggressively. And in the 2 months following, we've had 400% increase in consumption and attendees, right? So use your best content over and over, and you can, with marketing automation, pretty easily segment out those people who have already consumed it.
Right. Yeah, you think especially there's some content or some topics that are really evergreen. So if you've already done the production, right, just have.
Yeah. I mean, I think most heads of demand gen will say, and it drives content marketers crazy, I need 5 pieces of great content, or I need 7 pieces of great content. And I think most content marketing is set up to create 100. They want to create a sea of content. That's fine. That works for inbound. I think for a targeted outbound strategy, you need to be a little more focused.
Yeah. So let's talk about customer experience a little bit, because it's such a hot topic, and I feel like when you deliver a really thoughtful webinar, it can improve that customer experience, especially or even so for a prospective customer. So
Yeah.
what advice do you have in terms of making sure that your webcasts or webinars are enhancing the customer experience?
Yeah, I think this is a really important point. Again, I think the one takeaway for marketers is avoid drive-by marketing, right? Like, you should have a holistic end-to-end marketing strategy versus a whole bunch of tactics. And it's really easy to slide down that slippery slope of doing tactics. So, for example, your webinar or any piece of content that you create and disseminate should be on brand. And so many people will put up a console or will have a webinar that is a departure from their brand. You would never have, well, I hope you wouldn't ever have a landing page or a page on your website that wasn't consistent with your brand and your visual look and feel. Like, that's crazy, right? Or you wouldn't just put out a white paper or a brochure that's completely off brand and uses a template from 5 years ago. But why is it that a lot of marketers will have an online event and they'll have a departure from the brand? So, and again, oftentimes webinars are a great top of funnel tactic, not always. So if this is the first experience someone's having with you, it sure as heck better be on brand. So that's my first point, is it should look and feel like who you are. It should be a visual representation of your brand. And the second area is, I think I'll put marketers in this category. I'll also put customer service in this same category. Scaling is what keeps us up at night. If you're marketing and selling to and supporting 50 customers, or a TAM of 50 companies, perhaps it's different. But I know almost no industry that's the case. So for me, when I get pressed by our board, or I think of where we're heading to next, I think, how can I scale? And I think customer service departments or customer success departments are now thinking the same way. So LinkedIn is a customer of ours, and actually my wife works at LinkedIn. They run almost all of their customer service events or customer support events or customer success events on webinars, because they scale. When you're supporting thousands, or in some cases with large industries, large companies, hundreds of thousands of customers, while you love to have the one-on-one interaction, it doesn't necessarily scale from a cost perspective. So thinking differently about how you scale, but keep a one-to-one feeling or an engaging experience, that's paramount.
Right. So let's wrap up with a look forward.
Yeah.
What's coming up that you're excited about in two areas? One, any trend or tool that's on your radar, and two, any new features or upgrades within On24 that we should keep an eye out on?
Yeah, I'll have a theme here. It's about scaling. So what I love, and has nothing to do with webinars, the webinars fit into this, is I love ways for marketers to engage and do it at scale. Again, I feel like the days of the one-on-one in-person interactions, while I love them, I think they're behind many marketers. So as you look at digital transformation, how do you not have a massive departure from engagement as you scale? And I think most marketers feel like they're failing here. So we've flipped a switch on scale. It's called marketing automation. And with a click of a button, you can reach millions of people. But have you lost something along the way? So I'm a big fan of all things account-based marketing, personalizing as much of an experience as possible, and scaling it. So those are the types of technologies that interest me, and we're taking our product even further in that direction. So giving marketers the ability to have an engaging experience, but do it with thousands of people and capture data on the back end so you can make smarter decisions.
Excellent. Joe, thanks so much for all the great advice today. What a terrific discussion. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks, Ginger. I love talking about this, so anytime.
So, and I want to thank everyone who joined us on the video and say, Joe and I also had a great conversation about the skills it takes to succeed in marketing today. So be sure to check out that video as well. And be sure to visit MarTech Advisor's channel on YouTube for other executive interviews. And thanks again for being here.
Thanks, Ginger.